Welcome to my little tips and tricks video on IFC mapping. IFC mapping, in my view, is the top feature in ArchiCAD 18. It gives a lot of opportunities for all users of all experience levels to be able to get so much more data out of ArchiCAD and into traditional drawing or for collaboration outside with external parties than ever before. The main thing, I guess, that is really critical in terms of before embracing IFC mapping internally as part of your structures and being able to get more out of it from a data perspective is having a really good grasp of your building materials, where your building materials have logical naming and they kind of have a really, I guess, strong representation of what you're trying to model, and the associated surfaces. So the information that you're actually using with your building materials and surfaces have a lot of meaning. They're not kind of a bit average. Whereas, where you're not relying on data in the past, the naming conventions of all of your fills, for example, didn't need to be anything special. But as you rely more and more on data, it becomes more and more critical. So let's look into the first key feature, I think, that we can kind of embrace from IFC mapping, and that's is utilized in conjunction with the generic label tool. So the generic label tool is really powerful. It's a really nice little feature, probably understated in many ways, but it gives you the ability to draw information out of ArchiCAD that you never normally would have before, and it gives you the ability to pull all of this information and data that's typically associated with an element that you've modeled in ArchiCAD in one label, within the ability to remove or add extra data as you see fit. So we can come in and we can determine the dimensions, or put in automatic or custom ways of setting dimensions, choose separators. We can determine whether or not for this type of element you want to show volume or surface areas. And this is really nice here, this little feature here, where you can adjust the units as well. So you may have project preferences set up with certain units, but then here you can adjust them as well. You can come in and adjust your skin structures and adjust the way that they present in the label, but typically you won't have that sitting as independent. That'll be attached to one of these tools. So that's kind of the first part that's I guess is important to be aware of. The second part is to do with the IFC mapping itself, which is the feature that I'm talking about. So we go File, File Special, IFC 2x3, IFC Scheme Setup. So we go into here, and this can be quite confusing at the start for most users. So most of the work you want to do when dealing with trying to utilize the IFC mapping to create notes on your drawings in terms of wanting to represent data in a unique way. So as you can see from that generic label, you have the ability for listing out all of the information of an element, and what that does is it just rips all of the data from ArchiCAD and lists them as single items as part of that label. Where IFC mapping comes in, IFC mapping enables you to combine different parts of data together to create a custom, I guess, chain of data in a format that you choose, which I think is really important. But at the same time, it enables you to put notes on drawings and actually export out into IFC so that you can collaborate and communicate to external parties. So for this instance, we'll start up at IFC product level, and you'll see here where we want to put in custom P-sets that cover every single element type, and you'll see here there are a whole series of different element types, and for this instance we're going to deal with IFC beam. Now with IFC beam, which is what we're dealing with regards to what we put on the space down there, is we're just going to deal with we're just going to write a description for it today. So we're not actually going to go in and create a custom property set for our beam. But now you can see here I've done this beforehand because it takes quite a while to put in. But all you need to do is click a new rule, which is it's empty at the start. You can add parameters, and then you can also come down, insert object parameters, and insert static text. But just for this example, you'll see here that the available parameters are very similar to what you can do with an interactive scheduler, in the sense that you can grab general parameters that are consistent across typically all of the ArchiCAD element types, and then you can jump down and drill down into information that is specific to certain element types that might be critical to your rules. So what we'll do is we'll just work through this very long-winded note that I've created here. The note typically you would want on your drawing wouldn't be this long, but it's just to demonstrate how much you can actually put into it. So this rule here is created by content, which is made up of all these parameters. So these parameters we have here have come from add parameters box and also insert static text. So what we've got here is renovation. We've used static text as a space. We've got position being internal, external, structural function, height, width, building material, composite name, complex profile name or cut fill name, another space, type being the IFC type, and then width, left side surface. So I've utilized this because I know that my beams are going to be painted all the same finish, or they're going to be all the same finish, and they had finish at the end, just to show what we can do here with all this data. And the idea is that once we've set this up, none of the data will be manual that's attached to our elements. So now that that's set up, let's go back to one of our elements. So we'll go back to this element right here and go into the settings. So things to be noting here is the geometry, 200 millimeters by 100 millimeters. The next thing to note is the building material being steel. Next thing to note is our surface, where we've got a paint finish here. And the key thing then dealing with IFC is making sure that we have the structural function selected at all times, either load bearing or non-load bearing. Our position set to interior or exterior, and our element classification always selected. Never rely on ArchiCAD type. And this is important because sometimes you'll send slabs out, or you'll model slabs as ceilings or joinery, and if you leave it in ArchiCAD type, it will think it's a floor slab. And then underneath here, your renovation status, which is something that you should always be aware of when you're modeling. Now what you'll see here now is our description, and our description is started to write itself. Now the problem is that the display is too short to show the full explanation of what it is. But let's go and check our label button, label beam, and see what we have here. Now, for some reason it's on demolition, so I'll fix that. But you can see now that this very long label, which you typically wouldn't do, is all based upon completely on the data that's attached to this beam. There's no manual text in it whatsoever. And to demonstrate that, let's change that to existing, to be demolished and new. We can come into our dimensions here and change that to 300, and automatically that'll update that. We can change it from steel to iron. You can see the iron change, and let's change our paint to vermilion, and it automatically updates. So the second feature that's really important to me, and I can be thankful to Rob Jackson for talking to me about this when I was at the Key Client Conference this year in June in Budapest, is typically we document slabs using 3 different element types, or ArchiCAD native element types, so that we achieve the geometry output that we require, be it parallel flat slab, parallel raking slab, or a flat based slab that has a I guess an unusual shaped top, or a falling top. Now the problem is that I was relying on ArchiCAD to try and produce legends regarding my surfaces outputs. So it somewhat constrained you to try and model with one element type. And this is due because of the fact that you look here and you can see that what we have appearing here is the top surface of our slab, the top surface of our roof, and the top surface of our mesh. Now, what I was trying to create was a single column legend to place on my drawings, and you can imagine from an architectural display perspective this really didn't work. So what we ended up doing, we ended up breaking this down. Obviously the first thing we do would be to hide the column headers, as people would know if they'd seen my webinar on our ArchiCAD 17 template. And the next thing that we'd do would be to break this down into into 3 different views, and then put them manually onto the sheet, which is really a pain in the butt type of workaround, but that's what we had to do. Now the beautiful thing is now we can take ArchiCAD 18, go into our IFC scheme setup. Okay, now what we're going to do is go back up to the product level, and we'll see here that we've now created a P set, which was our custom property set, which I've called slab finish. Okay, so we're going to go down to the element level, and you can see here we haven't touched it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to IFC slab, and you can see here we've come in and given the properties. You can see here by the little chain link that we've actually done some mapping to this element at this level. So let's go in, and you can see here what I've drawn out. I've created new rules and added parameters to each, which is the top surface of a slab, the top surface of a roof, and the top surface of the mesh. So they're the 3 different native ArchiCAD element types that we use to generate our slabs within our model. So you can see now under my Skewed property set, I pull out slab finish IFC product, and you can see that they're the 3 items all in one. So let's go into ArchiCAD 18, and you can see, look at this, this is very nice, all in one column. So this is a thing that we couldn't achieve before, but now I can. So what we're doing is we've now used IFC mapping as a workaround to get a single column output of items that we used to only be able to get into 3 columns of multiple column outputs in ArchiCAD. So let's go into the scheme settings and look at a bit more detail as to how we've done that. So normally you'd pull data from this level here, from the available parameters, and you'll notice that they're quite similar to the ones that we have access to in the IFC mapping. But what we need to do here is click onto the little arrow to the right of the add button and add IFC properties. As you can see here, I've added slab finish from here before. Now that gives us this opportunity here. So I can come in here and I'll make some changes to my roof, and I'll change it to concrete 2, and then we'll go back in here and you'll see that they've joined together. So now it's a really neat way of getting things together. So I hope that you have been able to take something away from this little video today. I think the really important factors to kind of remember are that the tools that Graphisoft develop in ArchiCAD, sometimes they have hidden capabilities that I guess possibly weren't designed or intended, and it just gives users opportunities to embrace data in many, many more ways. So take, for example, the small practice, and this is, I guess, a question that comes up quite a bit. So a small practitioner typically won't be able to make a lot of investment in GDL scripting or creating custom labels. What we've seen here with the inclusion now of the generic label, it gives you the ability to create your own custom notes that draw on data from the model, rather than having manual text notes attached to elements that will not remain coordinated with the model as it changes or as you need to make changes to it. And labeling an object so much quicker, drawing on automatic data, than it is to actually manually label things all the time. Secondly, the feature that kind of, I guess, really deals with what my needs are in terms of some of the problems I was facing with some of the workflows I created is in regards to modeling similar elements using multiple different ArchiCAD tool types. Now, this was a big constraint for me in 17, to the point where we constrained my team at Fulton Trotter to working with one tool for most scenarios. Where slabs, we realised it was just not possible, so we basically accepted that fact and realised that we had to create manual views of legends on drawings. And this is because of our complex labelling system that we've created that draws on certain information from the model. But feel free to leave a comment, and hopefully in the future we'll have some more videos that cover some, I guess, more challenging features within ArchiCAD to help general users and the ArchiCAD community along the way. All right, thanks a lot.